Formula One's governing body is planning a new race management structure in an attempt to avoid a repeat of the problems at last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. There is widespread acceptance across the sport that race director Michael Masi failed to follow the rules correctly during a late safety car period in the title-deciding race. That resulted in Red Bull's Max Verstappen passing Lewis Hamilton on the final lap to beat the Mercedes driver to the title. The inquiry launched after Abu Dhabi is still ongoing and no concrete conclusions have yet been reached. However, the fallout from Abu Dhabi remains the single biggest topic facing F1 and the FIA. The credibility of the sport has been called into question. The FIA itself has admitted it was tarnishing the image of F1. And Hamilton, who is said to have lost trust in the FIA, will not decide whether to return to F1 this year until he has an understanding of the actions the governing body plans to take to address the concerns that arose during 2021 over race management. There is a feeling that the FIA initially believed that the fury over Abu Dhabi would die down with time. But with less than 2 months until the start of the new season, there is still plenty to be decided and announced. Although we have now heard from FIA Executive Director of Single Seaters Peter Beyer, it could give us an indication of what could be about to happen. Michael did a super job in many ways. We told him that. Beyer told Austrian newspaper Vorarlberger Nachrichten, "We definitely don't want to lose him. I can only make proposals to the World Council and they will definitely include Michael. But also that there is a possibility there could be a new race director." Beyer added that the governing body is looking at a new structure for race control with a view of spreading Masi's responsibilities between multiple people. "We're looking at dividing the various tasks of the race director, who is also sports director, safety and track delegate," said Beyer. "There was simply too much. These roles are divided between several people. This reduces the burden on the race director." Beyer also confirmed that communication between team principals and the race director would be scrapped after Masi cited Mercedes boss Toto Wolff and Red Bull boss Christian Horner pleading their cases on various issues over mid-race radio. "The team managers will still be able to. They have been able to ask questions," Beyer said. "We want to build in a buffer with an employee who accepts these requests. In the future, the race director will be able to concentrate on his task and will no longer be distracted." Hamilton is yet to confirm his F1 future as he waits on the outcome of the FIA's inquiry, having admitted he had lost faith given the manner in which he had missed out on the title. Mercedes saw their protest against the result rebuffed by stewards before opting against appealing the decision. Masi had several options in those seconds when he had to decide, all according to regulations, Beyer said. He could have finished the race under safety car. He could have stopped red flag as in Baku, but Nicholas Latifi's accident would not have justified it. Or he could have done what he did, which was to get it out of there somehow. If the Mercedes protest had gone to the Court of Appeal after rejection by the stewards, what would have come out of it? I believe that the judges would have said that the regulations say differently to what he decided, so we could only declare the result invalid. But even then, in the event of cancellation, Max Verstappen would have been world champion. It's also about having respect for the race director. The situation was far from perfect and that's why we're working on it. It's also about having respect for the race director. My job is to look ahead. How can we improve things? However, F1's governing body, the FIA, have moved to issue an update on their investigation following those comments made by Beyer. The FIA explained that there have been no decisions made with regard to the outcome of their investigation, which would appear to be in direct response to Beyer's comments. At this stage, no decision has been taken on the outcome of the detailed analysis currently underway into the events of the last Formula One Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, read the statement. As previously announced, the findings of this detailed analysis will be presented at the F1 Commission meeting in London on the 14th of February after an open discussion with all F1 drivers and then finally have to be approved at the World Motorsport Council meeting on the 18th of March in Bahrain, under the authority of the FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. So, the speculation over Michael Masi's future continues. Beyer said one of his early conclusions at this stage is that the race director needs more support in his role, and that the race director's responsibilities, which include sporting, safety, and track inspection responsibilities, should be split between different individuals. There will be a division of the diverse tasks of the race director, who is also sporting director, safety, and track delegate. That was just too much, Beyer said. One thing that was noted in the post-race stewards investigation in Abu Dhabi was that the teams had previously requested that races not be ended under the safety car. Bayer said the team still supported that stance, meaning workarounds could be factored into the rules to avoid any possibility of a race ending behind a safety car. We also asked the teams whether their demand not to end a race under safety car was still relevant, which they all affirmed, Bayer said. He also revealed that the FIA would look into creating additional support via a mission control based in Geneva, which will act as a backup team, much like the remote engineering groups F1 teams have back at their factories during race weekends. Bayer confirmed that, as had been previously reported, team principals would no longer be able to speak directly to the race director, and that new forms of communications between the teams and the FIA during the race would be set up to alleviate pressure on the race director. McLaren CEO Zak Brown was one of the many team principals who agreed that teams have been having too much influence on the race director. I have said before that the teams have too much power and it needs to be reduced. We have a significant role in the drafting of regulations and governance of Formula One, and that influence is not always driven by what is best overall for the sport. It is the teams who applied the pressure to avoid finishing races under a safety car at all costs. It is the teams who voted for many of the regulations they have complained about. It is the teams who have been using the broadcasting of radio messages to the race director to try and influence penalties and race outcomes, to the point where an overexcited team principal plays to the gallery and pressurizes race officials. This has not been edifying for F1. At times, it felt like a pantomime audition rather than the pinnacle of a global sport. Sky F1 analyst Brundle thinks that when it comes to replacing the Australian, if he does leave the sport, there is no quick fix for Formula One, and a lot of support is required for Masi if he does continue in 2022, given the pressure placed on him all season long, even if he ends up being the sacrificial lamb in the FIA's reaction to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Who would you replace him with? Be careful what you wish for, I would say in this. What I absolutely know for sure is that changing Michael Masi will not fix the problem. This is way too big a job for one person to handle in a 23 race season, and it's only going to grow. We're all over the world. Back in the day, it was 16, 18 races for Charlie Whiting, ex-race director, and Herbie Blash, ex-deputy race director. Charlie used to start the race, and Herbie was effectively the race director until Charlie got back from the starting rostrum down near the grid. They had it all under control, but it's just growing exponentially. So Masi, if he stays, needs a lot of support around him. I suspect that's what we're looking at the moment. And who would actually want to step into his shoes right now? Sky commentator David Croft added that Masi has been overworked and had barely taken a day off all season, and mistakes were made in the heat of the moment in Abu Dhabi. And it had been coming for a while given the stress of his role. But should he need replacing? Croft added that subtle candidates may not be immediately forthcoming. In terms of get rid of Michael Masi, if that's Toto Wolff's belief, you've got to have someone ready to bring in, and I don't think that person is there as it stands at the moment. So, with so many unanswered questions, what does happen next? It was agreed at the meeting that in future, the race director's actions have to be predictable. It was Masi's improvisations around and failure to follow the rules in Abu Dhabi that led to the outcry after the race. Bayer is next expected to meet the F1 drivers to seek their views on Abu Dhabi and other matters, although no date has yet been set for this meeting. Following that is a meeting of the F1 Commission, which involves the teams, the FIA and F1 on the 14th of February, at which it is expected that the changes the FIA proposes as a result of Abu Dhabi will be discussed.